Here's our top focus now. Tensions between Israelis and Palestinians have soared in the city of Jerusalem. Clashes broke out at the Gaza-Israel border between Palestinian protesters and Israeli troops after the violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem that triggered violent protests. Now, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has held the Israeli government responsible for the escalation of violence in East Jerusalem. Meanwhile, one rocket was fired from Gaza into Israel in the early hours of Sunday morning, landing in an open area. The Israel Defense Forces responded by attacking a Hamas military post in the southern Gaza Strip. The Israeli military said some 450 Gazans protested near the border fence in solidarity with the Palestinians in Jerusalem to show their dissent.
ولن نسمح للعدو بأن يواصل إجرامه الصهيوني الحربي على والعدوان المتواصل على أبناء شعبنا الفلسطيني. وجئنا هنا وقمنا بإشعال الإطارات الكوشكية وكذلك الكثير من القنابل الصوتية والقنابل المتفجرة، وتم إلقاء على جنود الاحتلال المبججين بالسلاح.
Protests have rocked the streets of Jerusalem since Saturday after police cracked down on demonstrators outside the old city. At least 90 Palestinians were injured on Saturday evening after an Israel police crackdown on protesters. The violence came after Israeli forces stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest mosque, and injured more than 200 Palestinians on Friday night. Palestinians hurled stones, bottles and fireworks at police, who fired rubber bullets and stun grenades back at the protesters. The clashes follow a month of tensions, with a threatened eviction of Palestinian families as the focal point. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defended police action against Palestinian protesters after 2 nights of clashes in Jerusalem. He said Israel shall not allow any radical element to undermine the calm in the city. Meanwhile, hundreds of people gathered in front of Israel's Consulate General in Istanbul to protest Israeli police actions against the demonstrating Palestinians. Demonstrators waved Turkish and Palestinian flags and chanted anti-Israel slogans to voice their protests. Now, a number of international voices have expressed concerns over the violence, including the Middle East negotiators, the US, the EU, Russia and the UN included. Neighboring Jordan has condemned the actions of Israeli security forces as barbaric. Bahrain and UAE, which normalized relations with Israel last year, have also sharply criticized Israel over the weekend violence. Meanwhile, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday expressed serious concerns to his Israeli counterpart about the violent clashes. Sullivan has urged the Israeli government to pursue appropriate measures to ensure calm during Jerusalem Day commemorations. For more on this story, we are now joined by Amichai Steen, diplomatic correspondent with Khan TV. Thanks so much for joining us, Amichai. First up, what's the latest update on ground? Is the situation still rather tense?
Rather tense completely, because since about 2 hours ago, we have ongoing clashes in Al-Aqsa Mosque between protesters that have been there since the middle of the night. They were gathering rocks and sticks, preparing for the possibility of Jews going, like every day, to the Temple Mount area. But again, due to this tension, the decision was at the end not to allow Jews to go in. This was the decision of Israeli police, again, to try and calm things down. But still, because these people, we're talking about thousands of people that gathered with rocks and other material and started even throwing it on the roads nearby. So the police, Israeli police, had to storm in, and we're talking about massive clashes. We are talking about injured in the area. We haven't seen these pictures of injured people in Al-Aqsa Mosque for a very long time. I mean, many, many years. So the situation is very, very tense. And remember, we are only at 9:30 Israel morning time. So the day is still long. And we have later today a big march of Israelis celebrating the liberation of Jerusalem in the 67 war that was in 1967. So this march also goes through for example, through the Muslim quarters in Jerusalem. So we have a lot of potential of clashes along the day, and Israeli police are really trying to calm things down, but at this point it's not really working.
Right. Can the authorities on ground then be labeled guilty for allowing the situation to get out of control? Because telltale signs were already there for the last few days that the situation might get out of control.
The question was again what will happen today. Everyone was focused on today, and they had a really security meeting tonight with the Prime Minister, with the Defense Minister, with our senior officials, and the main goal that went after this meeting was to the police try to do everything to calm down the tension in Jerusalem. So one thing we saw was again not allowing Jews to enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque area, the Temple Mount area during the day, again to prevent this kind of clashes. But it seems because of the tensions are so high, it's really at this point very, very hard to calm things down. And unfortunately, in both sides, we have people trying to, let's say, burn things up, increase the tension. And this makes it much more difficult to calm the things down. But again, the pictures we're seeing today in Al-Aqsa Mosque will be very, very problematic in trying to prevent the ongoing tensions.
Right, and that was Amichai Stain reporting live from Jerusalem.